Your Malaysian Spring project is beautiful, it's charming, it's the kind of thing that perhaps the city really needs. It's political, but it also has some sort of aesthetic values. Sek San, can you explain what the Malaysian Spring campaign is about?
Okay, it started about maybe 2.5 weeks ago. A few of friends sitting around a table for breakfast, and we talk about how we can be able to contribute positively to the visual campaign in this whole election period. So the idea of this campaign of Malaysian Spring is that we wanted to spread the message of hope and of change, change, and also getting people involved, getting as many as Malaysians involved as possible, doing a very simple thing of making a flower and planting them in our streets and neighborhood.
This is not an organic flower though, and in fact to many pictures I think it looks like a flag, not a flower. So can you explain why you call it a flower and why it looks like a flag?
I don't want to call it a flag because it is about spring, and spring is about flowers, okay? And I think some people do it better than others. If you go to Lucky Garden, for example, they do look like flowers, okay? Those, I don't know whether you have seen those lupin flowers in New Zealand where it's conical and trumpet-like shape. But we are encouraging people to reinterpret it in whatever way they like. So it can be different materials, it can be real flowers, it can be plastics, it can be cloths, it can be anything. So the material and the colors are not important.
But some people are saying it's partisan, that you are essentially taking one side against the other. Would you agree?
Yes and no. I guess we started off with Nurul Izzah launching our campaign. Obviously, I live in Bangsar, which is part of her constituency, and she's been our MP for 5 years, and we'd like to support her. So our first lot of flowers that we planted obviously carries her party colours, which is the turquoise blue, the red, the white, and of course we throw in a lot more other colours just to add more colours and fun to it. So that's the yes part. The no part is that we are encouraging every party to take part, because this is not about party, this is about Malaysia. This is about making Malaysia a better place for every Malaysian, and this is about an effort that we can engage every single Malaysian to kind of take part in it by this simple gesture of making flowers, putting them into the streets, make our neighborhood better. So,
okay. In fact, I want to ask you, can I just kind of interrupt you there? The Malaysian Spring, now that references the Arab Spring, it references the political turmoil in West Asia, and already, the Barisan Nasional has used that idea as a way of attacking the Pakatan Rakyat. The Pakatan Rakyat in turn has said that we don't want a Malaysian Spring. They've already now come out and said, we don't want a Malaysian Spring a la the Arab Spring.
Yes.
But why did you reference it that way then?
Why? Because it's part of my job. I'm a landscape architect. I plant flowers every day, I plant trees every day, and I live in a country for a long time where there's 4 seasons, New Zealand for 12 years, and I know how spring looks like. And that is my connotation of a spring. I don't know where this connotation of my Arab brothers and sisters will feel quite insulted if they see what I'm doing here as part of Malaysian Spring. So put it this way. So I think spring as a concept for this whole campaign is about this change of season from a very dark, cold, wintry, horrible days into a bright, sunny, hopeful seasons. I mean, it's signified by flowers blossoming in a 4-season country. And that's what we are trying to do in Malaysia. And Barisan Nasional has really partaken in our campaign because there are some supporters that have planted all these dark blue flowers in Damansara Heights. And it's been added into our Facebook page. So I think we want it to be a very inclusive movement, yes, to kind of get away from all this partisan politics that is so prevalent at this very intense period of politicking and campaigning in Malaysia. It's about hope. It's about people doing their own things.
What's interesting, of course, is that there's so much negative campaigning that's going on. There's demonizing of rivals. Sure. I mean, I think one side is doing it more than the other, but never mind. Still, both sides to some extent are doing that too. Yeah. And this is, in many ways, a way of talking about the future in more positive terms. Yes. But it doesn't have specific. So somebody will say, yeah, you want to talk about change, Sek San, but really, what do you mean by it?
Right.
You're not giving us any answers, you're just making a gesture.
Okay.
And, some people will say, well, what does that mean? I mean, is it an empty gesture?
You see, Sharaad, for too long, I think we've been relying on our political leaders to change things for us. I think it's about time we as Rakyat take things on our own hands and make contribution in terms of nation building. Participating in communities, participating in local neighborhood issues, making decisions, taking over, reclaiming spaces. For example, the roundabout in Lucky Garden. For the first time in the history of my living there for 18 years, I have stepped into that roundabout. It is a public space. It's common. It's owned by the public, but nobody uses it. But by the fact that we are planting flowers on it, the neighborhood now is coming into it. They're taking pictures. The kids are there. We even have a picnic there the other day. So we are re-looking at the entire way spaces are being used in this whole campaign. And it's about people making changes themselves. And changes is, I think, it's about changing attitudes. It's about changing our habits, besides political changes or party changes.
One of the things, because you just mentioned the word, it's kind of a common area, right? And the commons is actually a notion that in some countries they're trying to develop the idea of public spaces actually owned by the public. In Malaysia, many of our public spaces are actually owned by the state.
Exactly.
And we are kind of alienated from that,
Exactly.
right? That space.
Yes.
So what do you think it will take for us to think about those spaces as actually part of that we have common ownership of it? And that includes also not littering, because I think sometimes littering is a sign that we are alienated from those spaces.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the Occupy movement was part of that, about reclaiming public spaces for the communities. But I think people took that very negatively because they felt that it's aggressive, it's whatever. This is the same movement. Planting a flower on a traffic island, in some of these open spaces and parks and things like that. It's about also reclaiming our rights to use those space. Because planting flowers, I think, is nothing really aggressive. It's trying to make our environment more beautiful, and we have been very conscious to tell anybody who is participating in this campaign to be careful not to do littering. Okay, so we are maintaining those flowers for the next 3 weeks as much as we can, and at the end of the campaign we will make a call for everybody to collect back everything and put them into proper places.
What are the difficulties and challenges for people trying to reclaim spaces in order to plant these flowers?
I think a lot of people are fearful that activities like this is illegal. So my encouragement to them is, you never know whether it's legal or illegal until you've done it. And just by common sense, I think planting a flower in our street is our rights. Yeah, we are not littering. We are making our neighborhood more colorful, more beautiful for a short period, and we will be responsible for taking care of it. I don't see why activities like that should be illegal. And if it's illegal, something is very wrong in our system.
Now, Lembah Pantai is a huge constituency. It's actually quite diverse in class terms. You have a very middle-class area around Lucky Gardens, but you also have public flats with a lot of working-class people. Do you think a project like that reaches out more easily to a middle-class, constituency, that part of Lembah Pantai? And is it something, have you seen it spread to the working-class areas of Lembah Pantai?
We will test it out next week. We started off with upper middle class bangsa, and it's been received well. In fact, a lot of the flags was made by the Reformasi makciks from Kerinci, okay? And they're going to do their own planting next week, and we're going to assist them with that. So we'll test it out. I don't know yet. But I think those areas need it more than even middle class bangsa.
Why is that?
Because their environment is so harsh. I mean, you have been to Kerinci, the density is so very harsh. There's hardly any open spaces. There's hardly any greenery and colours.
All right, thank you very much.